Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for coming to today's HR workshop. My name is Victoria, and I work for Factorial, which is an all in one HR software company offering digital solutions to HR professionals all around the world. How easy is to make their lives easier? You will find out very soon during this workshop. Today, we are very excited to have with us Richard Maybury, managing consultant at Attitude Solutions, who will be discussing the topic improving employee productivity with good time management. He will be joined by our own HR expert, Ted Brosnan. Hi to both of you, and thank you so much for dedicating your time today.
Hiya.
Thanks, Victoria.
As we all know, adopting good time management behaviors and processes liberates us, right? So it creates productive capacity, enables us to increase our focus and impact, reduces our stress levels, and makes work feel more purposeful and enjoyable. So, for that reason, we have today consultant and expert Richard Maybury, who has been known as Mr. Productivity to his clients across the UK, EMEA, and North America. His Attitude Solutions training business specializes in enabling his clients' people to manage their conflicting priorities and deliver their critical results measurably easier every day. So, during the next 30 minutes, we will discuss with him the following topics: employee productivity, time management, and in the end, Ted will show us how we can manage time easily. But before we start, I just want to invite you, everyone, to tell us in the chat where are you tuning in from, and feel free to ask questions throughout the event because I will write them down, and in the end, we will answer them during the Q&A section. I also like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can follow our future live events such as this one. Hello to both of you again, and let's start with time management.
Hey.
Richard, the floor is yours.
The floor is mine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, um, I I guess I'll start with an acknowledgement that time management is impossible. Okay. Um, you and I can't add 1 second to our day. We can certainly take time off our day, but we can't add 1 second to our day. So when I talk with my clients, people about time management, really what I'm talking to them about and helping them with is managing their focus and their energy, because time is limited by nature and limited outside of us, but our ability to manage our focus and our energy reaps big advantages over not being as careful about our focus and our energy. So really it's about focus and energy time. So I guess that's the first thing I'd like to just state here. So the real challenge is, how do we manage our focus and our energy when everybody wants us to be doing something else and something for them? Okay. And then the second thing I'd say, the second sort of meta frame, I guess, is around the fact that although we're very good people, and although we're clever and we're advanced and we are ambitious, we are also quite fragile. And every human being has an element of fragility inside them. But that doesn't mean that they can't make changes. So there's a fallacy that says that people don't like change and people will revert back to type. Now, I don't subscribe to that, because I think that we're actually built for excellence. So when something happens to us and it's a threat or it's a challenge or a crisis, then it's quite easy for us to revert to type, because our survival instinct is kicked into gear. And we then sort of tend to step back from a change. But actually, when we think about it, if we can make that change sort of exciting, an opportunity, a novel experience, something to be meaningful and to be wanted, then of course change is easy. So I guess the two frames that I would like to sort of put out there before we get into sort of tips and everything else is, let's just think about this as managing focus and energy. And let's also accept the fact that we can make changes if we're excited and if we've got a big enough reason to make those changes. Otherwise, it becomes a bit of a trap, And we don't want to have a trap. We want to have it liberating. We want to have this as a liberating experience. As you mentioned earlier on there, Victoria, you know, it can be liberating. So how do we then sort of go about liberating ourselves with good time management? I guess that's the natural question that falls out of these two meta frameworks, if you will. So I think really it's about always having the sort of the end in mind. There's loads of books and studies around this, but if we know what we want to achieve, and if we have a process, then there's a greater opportunity of us being able to achieve that. So I would suggest that if we're to look for good time management on an individual level, and we'll talk about organizational level in a short while, Victoria, but if we want to do it on an individual level, then I think it's about what do I want to be achieving in my life, maybe, in my career, in my year, in this particular role, on this particular project. What does the end look like? And then get excited about that end. And then work backwards from the end in terms of what do I need to be focusing on? What do I need to prioritize? And it's a big challenge for people who've got that maybe managerial, supervisory, team leadership roles, as well as a role around being an individual contributor, probably at a higher level. And those people have got real conflicts, conflicting priorities. On the one hand, they've got to be this team leader person. And on the other hand, they get all the hard questions to be answered by their clients and their customers and their suppliers. What do you prioritize? And if we think about what our core purpose of our role is and what the core outcomes of our role are, then we can get a sort of a framework for thinking about how we prioritize and what we need to prioritize. And then it's really about then looking at that in a more granular level. So if that's what I'm supposed to be achieving for my project, for my role, for this month, then what does that mean for today? What's the most important thing for me to be focusing on? And one of the questions that I get people to think about is towards the end of every day, when they're looking at what they've achieved, ask themselves a question. Now, most people don't ask themselves this, and most people don't actually reflect on what they achieved in a day. They've worked very hard, and most people close the system down and get on with the rest of their life until tomorrow. But I would suggest very, very, very strongly, you haven't earned your money today until you ask yourself this question.
Yeah.
And the question is, what must I deliver tomorrow? What is the most important thing that I know of today that I must deliver tomorrow?
Yeah, you need to have like some kind of target, or I don't know, a priority to do and to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to have that in whatever system you're working with alongside Factorial. So if you're in a Microsoft house or if you're in a Google house, you know, use that software to its absolute maximum, so that you've not only got your calendar, because everyone has a calendar, everyone sees stuff coming in, including, you know, from Factorial and what have you, and Ted will talk about that a little bit later on. But not only in your calendaring, and definitely not only in your inbox, but also in your tasking applications, whether that's in Google or Microsoft or whatever. So put all of your tasking into a trusted tool. Don't have different to-do lists all over the place. And when you look at what you've got scheduled for tomorrow with your meetings and what work you've got scheduled for tomorrow, at some time today, ask yourself, out of all these things I could do tomorrow, what is the one thing that I must defend?
This is an excellent tip for time management. And I also do this a lot. Like I always have like my own dashboard where I keep all of my tasks and I always prioritize them. And at the end of the day, when I finish them all, like I feel content with myself and I know that I've done something. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what, I as well as part of this process, you know, I started out by saying that even though we're achieving things in our life and everything else, we are fragile. All right. And I think as part of your process and with your dashboard and everything else, when we're looking down the list and when we see what we've done, give ourselves a pat on the back, because our boss will not do it. It's not because our boss doesn't care. Our boss is as busy as sin. But
Yeah.
our boss will not come round and do that, especially with remote teams. All right. That would be really weird if your boss came into your room and started patting you on the back. All right. But we've got to pat ourselves on the back. All right. But also, once we felt good, oh, look at this. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. This is really great. Once we've given ourselves that pat on the back and a reinforcement and re-energizing ourselves, then we've got to have a look at what we've not done.
There's something so satisfying almost of just ticking off that box.
There is, man.
To have that list where you're watching the list get smaller and smaller and smaller. It's just it just is a good feeling knowing you're doing something, but having it in front of your eyes to see it, it's a funny one.
Absolutely, have it in front of your eyes and see it, and still, you know, look at it. And you and I and everyone else, because we're human, we will have avoided stuff. We will have procrastinated on stuff. We will have put stuff off. And it's holding ourselves gently to account, because we haven't been slacking. It's just that we've allowed other conflicts and other priorities to trump what we wanted or what we thought we wanted to do. And we need to address that for ourselves and say, well, why did I allow that to happen today? And then it might be that, you know what, I hate doing that work, or I really don't see the value in doing that work, or I just didn't want to do it. All right. But be honest with ourselves, pat on the back, a gentle kick in the butt, and make a decision. Will I be doing some stuff about that tomorrow or the next day?
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this because I'm also doing this. So it means that I'm doing something right, you know?
And most people are, but you know, it is a question of having a good process. If you can't articulate a process, then you're leaving half of it to chance.
Yes.
Richard, just a quick question for you, when you have that priority list, and in an ideal world, it is you get it all done in due course, but I'm sure everyone knows your priorities change pretty quick when you come into the office next morning at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
How do you decide that yesterday's priority is still the top priority, or it's not slipped down the line?
Okay, that's a really cool question. Actually, it's a very good question. So I would say that when we're looking, whatever tasking tool we're using, okay, what we need to do, there's a few things that make a difference, and you can do this on nearly every platform. Okay, you've got to understand how each individual task fits into what you're engaged in the organization to achieve. So the meta frame is, what's the purpose of my role? What's the purpose of this quarter, this month, this week, today, and tomorrow? Okay. So you start prioritizing your tasks in a very sort of a general way, looking at your objective of your role. Okay. And then I would say, I'm a great believer in the fact that an awful lot of technology, all right, and this might be controversial, and if it is controversial, I'm sorry, but an awful lot of technology rewards reactivity. You go into an inbox, you cannot be proactive in an inbox. The inbox rewards reactivity. And therefore, when we're creating tasks, whether it's on a dashboard or on sort of individual tasking elements, I would say think start time, not deadline. If your tasking app doesn't have a facility to give you a start date, then it's not a good app. All right. So think start time, not deadline. You've got to put the due date in. But if you think you can do this on Monday, then put the start time for Monday and build a horizontal set of to-do lists, because your meetings are horizontal, and build horizontal tasking based on start date underneath your calendar items, so that you can see not just your meeting load, but you can see your prioritized workload. And then depending upon the platform, so with Microsoft Outlook, just by putting, you know, when we're having that couple of minutes there, Ted, sometime in sort of late afternoon, if you sort your task list alphabetically, A to Z, then what I suggest that people do is just put a number 1 in response to the question, what must I defend and deliver tomorrow? Just put a number 1 at the start of that task subject, and have your task list sorted by alphabetical order, and that will rise to the top. So it's not hidden down the list.
Yes.
And most technology will allow you to do that.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And then if necessary, look at your calendar for tomorrow and create some time to do that high value task. And if you can do the high value task in high energy time, wow.
Exactly. Yeah. And this brings us also to the productivity of the employees. So by doing this, by managing our time and our priorities, we also are working on the employee productivity within the company. So maybe, Richard, you can say something here about the strategies on how we can improve the productivity of the employees as managers.
Absolutely. So briefly, I would say the best thing that an organization can do is to help their people to embed good time or focus or energy management behaviors. So have some good processes and good training around that, and get people to sort of contribute to what could work good here. So culture is just about how we do stuff here. And the challenges for a lot of companies is that they have their culture as one thing, and then they have their email thing and their meeting thing, and everything else as something different. So if we were talking about employee productivity, I would say you've got to look at supporting your people through some training around good time workload prioritization training. And then we've got to establish what good looks like culturally across the organization. And I call this culturalizing our technology. So if we believe that people's time is valuable, then we make sure that every meeting starts on time and ends on time. No excuses, no exceptions. If we believe in extreme ownership, so I share something with Ted and Ted sort of wants to get it done, then I've got to understand that Ted will get it done. If Ted says to me, and one of the questions I ask people around here is, when's the soonest you can let me have that?
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody says, Richard, I am so screwed up here, man, I can't do that until Tuesday or Wednesday, then I will say again, that's okay. Are you sure that that is the soonest you can let me have it? And if they say yes, I'll say, thank you. I'll have it on Wednesday then.
Yeah,
But then it's their challenge, you know, extreme ownership. But, you know, if we don't all agree to that, then what happens is people send an email and then they text and say, did you get my email?
Yes. So transparency and honesty are like the best virtues that you can have. Definitely.
Absolutely. So when it comes to that whole thing about employee productivity, I think it starts with individuals, and then we start to culturalize it, and then we embed that culture into behaviors in the technology, whether that's in meeting notes, in meetings themselves, in internal emails, if we have to do internal emails these days. But in all of that stuff, we culturalize it, so that we culturalize the good behavior so it becomes our common behavior.
What I
Exactly.
find really fascinating about what you just said, there's a lot of people that I'd work with and partners working with trying to absorb Factorial into the organization, is they come on not because they're so frustrated with all of the documents that they need to do, or because of the tasks that's building up. It's because they want to streamline all that so they can build a culture within the organization that allows employees to work the best. Obviously, teams don't want to be spending all day going through the documents. It's a waste of their time. That's not why a HR team is in place. A HR team is there to ensure that the employees within the organization have a culture built around them so they can be as efficient as possible.
Yeah.
It's the whole purpose really of Factorial as a system, is to give time back to the HR team to look after the employees and to focus on the organization's growth. It's
Absolutely.
really fascinating that you said that.
No, and it's absolutely fascinating. And what Factorial does is an example of what the best practice is. If we got process, and I've used process word a few times now, but process is just repeatable behavior. And whether that's something in the digital world or the human blood and flesh world, if we've got a repeatable behavior, then we've got an ability to rely upon that. And if it breaks down, then we fix that element that's broken down. But then that releases capacity, it releases creativity, it releases energy into more valuable sort of workloads. And yeah, absolutely, I'm with you on that, Ted.
Yeah, it's fascinating, the transformation you see when you check in with a partner only a couple of months after they're not bogged down with either an inefficient system or inefficient processes that have been, I suppose, not allowing them to do their best work. It's not just that one team that's impacted, it's the whole organization that's impacted by giving that ability to work efficiently.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And since we're discussing already like the benefits that we can get from Factorial, maybe Ted, you can also share with us a little bit more about how we can manage time easily with Factorial and how a nature software can facilitate and fuel these productivity strategies that we mentioned.
Yeah, of course. I'll share my screen here. I hope everyone who's watching likes Disney. I've my platform is based around Disney, so you see a few characters.
Yeah, I'll just share a QR code in the top left corner where you can also book a free demo if you want.
Yeah,
Just
please. We're not going to have the time to really
yes, of
to
course.
go through everything here today, but if anyone wants to reach out to me after, I'd be more than happy to run through everything in a little bit more detail.
Yes.
Guys, welcome to Factorial, I suppose. So initially, again, what Richard's been talking about is having that overview on your tasks, having that overview on your employees for that productivity. As soon as you log into Factorial, you're going to see who's in your team today, if they're on holidays, the reason for their absence, and you'll have your inbox here. So essentially your inbox, it is your task list that we've been, I suppose, talking about for the last 20 minutes. It shows you everything that you need to do in that day. Now that's tasks that have been assigned from other people in the organizations, from your subordinates, from yourself. You can assign yourself a task through this little section here so that you can go in and tick them off. It automatically prompts you to make these tasks as easy as possible. So if it's an expense request, you can go in and you can view that expense request, all that information straight from the list, and approve or reject it. If you want to dive in a bit more detail, you can just go into the expenses section down here. You have an overview of all your own personal tasks within here, and then also within here. You can filter them down. So this is anything that's been incompleted, but you have an overview for when you want to come in, you want to have that little pump of what I've achieved today or all the tasks I've done. You just have that overview of everything you've achieved that day. To assign a task to another employee, you can literally just come in here. You leave the little task name, the task description, and then the due date for that. So Peter or Richard, that's the Monday task that's going to get done on Tuesday.
Yeah.
If there's any documents that need to be added to that, so if you want an employee to fill out a P45 form. Now, again, what we're talking about, the benefit from Factorial is not just giving you the ability to track all those tasks, but it's to make those tasks as efficient and quick as possible. So for that P45 form, I know, I suppose my tax was due last week, so this is a real pain point for me, is you used to have to go in, withdraw that form from the system, take it into Adobe, fill it in from there. But with Factorial now, it prompts you to assign it as a fillable document, and then you can fill out that document straight from the system. So you can fill it all out through here. and then finish. And once you're finished, your manager and anyone else is informed that the HR team receive a notification that task has been completed. So rather than you just having the task finished, it's off your HR manager's mind, it's off your colleague's mind that task is finished too.
Cool.
I suppose a real pain point for tasks is forgetting that they're done, or forgetting that it's due. You can assign the task to receive multiple notifications, I suppose, over daily or twice a day, that you receive that notification through your mobile app and through your email, as we have those integrations there. You can view all the tasks on the mobile app as well. So if you're on your way into work and you're on the bus in the morning, you can log in and check those, what's due for the day, and check what you finished yesterday. For more, I suppose, complex task lists, so when there's multiple people in the organization are due for that, onboarding is always a great example. It's one of those things that there's so many people involved in the onboarding process, and it's so necessary for a new employee to know, as they're coming into a company, that this company has processes in place, that they have from start to finish, that they have the ability to run an effective onboarding. So when you're coming in, you know that it's a well-run organization. Within these processes, we've them broken down. This is just an example, but you have them for projects, offboarding, quarterly reviews, anything it may be. You've got your pre-boarding section, which is essentially, your welcome email. That's assigned to Tinkerbell. You've got your paperwork. It's assigned to Happy Dwarf. Your equipment setup is assigned to the IT team. These the names are ridiculous, guys. Apologies, but
it's
these are, yeah. I suppose everyone likes Disney, so it keeps people engaged. If there's anyone falling asleep in the background, they're Happy Dwarf, I'd say they're straight back up. But once you set up these processes, so the onboarding, who's going to be sending out that welcome email, who's going to be filling out the paperwork. You assign then the one time. First day, again, your welcome buddy, your orientation, your managers, the affected users that you're assigning these tasks to, so that when a new employee comes into the organization, you're signing this onboarding list and it just goes out automatically. You'll also have the ability to go into those tasks. One second here. You'll also have the ability to go into Ariel Tutton as a HR manager, as their direct supervisor. You can go in and you can click into her task section here, and you have an overview of all the tasks that Ariel hasn't done. You also have an overview of the ones that she has done, but Ariel's not on the ball, as so much we hope. It just gives the employee themselves to know exactly what they need to do when they come into the office. But it also gives the manager the ability to trust in the employee that they're going to get them done. You're not going to be constantly annoying. Did you do that task? Did you do that task? Did you do that task? Because you can just log in, go into their profile and see what they've completed or not.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Ted, for this. Honestly,
No, not at all.
And I enjoy the characters. It makes it more. So if you want to see a demo like this, you can book a free demo by following the QR code, and you can get Ted to explain to you more about all of these features and about the Disney characters as well. So thank you so much to both of you. Now we will move to the questions and answers section. I already have some of the questions here prepared, so we can spare like 5 minutes for that. The first question is, how can I create yearly priorities for my team without facing conflicts? Richard, this is probably for you.
Whoa. I'd say that's probably impossible to do on a granular level. However, it is very possible to do on a very strategic level. I'll just share one story. I won't give the name of the client company, but it's a massive organization. And I've been supporting their people for a long time now with our Welding Purpose to Priorities training. And they had a mission a while back, and the mission was, they called it the road to 2 billion. The mission was $2 billion in EMEA. That was the mission. And that was their strategic priority, 2 billion in turnover. And what that did was, it allowed everyone to ask their questions within the organization. How does that help us get to 2 billion? So if you've got something that's quantifiable and something exciting as an operational objective, and you support people in making tough decisions about achieving what they need to achieve that target, then that allows you to ask each other the question, that's very interesting, but how does that help me to get the organization to 2 billion?
Yes.
So that's about the easiest thing, the easiest way I can do it on yearly priorities. And then that's about being open and accepting the day-to-day conflicts that will go on, especially as we get closer to the deadline.
Yes. Thank you so much. Moving to the next one. How can I be honest with my manager when he only wants it done on his terms and does not want to listen to anything else?
That's
This
a
one
great.
is.
You know, it's a great question, and it's the reality, and a lot of us will sort of maybe back away from that, and we'll think, oh, it's my boss, therefore I'll do what my boss wants. But unless and this is all about culture as well, guys. All right, but unless we ask, you know, what do I have to drop in order to do this, and unless we feel comfortable in asking, then we risk just becoming hijacked by the next, and there's very little structure, and it's total responsiveness. So being honest with your manager might be a risk,
Yeah.
and it might also be liberating, because quite often a manager is also pushed by their manager, and our job maybe would be to help our manager to get what they want to get achieved with their boss. So look at it as an opportunity to support your manager without saying yes. All
Yes,
right.
but maybe like organizing your thoughts well and explaining every detail why it cannot be done, why this is happening. Maybe that will help. Maybe involving a third person in that conversation will be also beneficial.
Absolutely, and I used to have it all the time. It was like, when's the soonest you can let me have this? Well, I can't let you have it until Wednesday. Now, sometimes I've got to say, well, I'm sorry, Wednesday just doesn't do it. I've got a meeting on Thursday morning. I need it before then.
Yeah.
But that's a quality conversation about conflicting priorities, and that's real, and we
Yes.
need to support that.
Yes. I agree. Again, we have another question here. I will show it to you. Thanks for the great chat. How can individuals strike a balance between being productive and avoiding burnout or excessive stress? Sometimes huge to-do lists might cause a loss of productivity.
Yes, I agree 100%. Here's the thing. We're fragile, all right? So here's the thing. In all my time, I've been amazed at how many people overestimate what they will achieve in a day. And those same people underestimate what they can achieve in a lifetime. And unfortunately, we've become too narrowly focused into this great big long list and get it all done today. And that's not necessarily the reality. It can be the reality if we allow ourselves to become reactively driven. But if we decide to sort of take on the challenge of proactivity, think start time, not deadline, projectize workload, prioritize projectized workloads, have your tasks and your calendar visible together, have the ability to say no to stuff and know why you're saying no, and help your people understand why you're saying no or not now. If we get that going, then the reality is that we don't need to do as much as we think we need to do. There's also a reality around this. An awful lot of people, and I'm not saying anyone on this course, because people are looking at this and they're interested in this stuff, but there's a whole pile of people who do work that is beneath their pay grade because they don't let go of it. So I have a process called the 4D process, and the 4D process is defend. That's your high priority. What must I deliver? Defend and deliver tomorrow. And then is what must I do? And what must I deflect? Whether that's delete it or delegate it or systemize it or AI it. And then if I'm not going to do it today, when am I going to do it, and date it? And that's how you build your horizontal to-do list of dated start date tasks alongside your dated start date meetings.
This is an amazing advice, Richard. Thank you so much. I hope that our listeners will appreciate it. And we have to wrap this up because we are way over 30 minutes. So we have one more question and then we're good to go. How does good time management help remote hybrid staff to stay productive?
Ethan, I love you already. You know, no, seriously, I do, because you know, part of the challenge that we have in remote teams, or in sometimes sort of hybrid teams where we sometimes go to an office and we sometimes don't. Part of the challenge is that unless we engage with that, the thing I started out with this more is sort of right at the start of our conversation together, and unless we have a clear picture of what we're looking to achieve, then it becomes very isolating. So we've got to have that big sort of picture. This is what I want to achieve in this role. This is what I want to achieve this quarter, this month, this week, today, tomorrow. Unless we've got something that's compelling, that excites us, then working from home can and does become a very lonely and disheartening experience. And we are all fragile. You
Yes.
know, I serve on the board of a mental health charity, so I know this firsthand. Too many people suffer from overwhelm. Too many people suffer from stress. The antidote to stress is to feel in control. Stress is a sense of feeling out of control. How do we get in control? We choose to adopt good behaviors. We choose to adopt good practice. We choose not to be reactively driven by our software and to be proactively driven. We choose to make challenging questions around purpose and priorities, and know that the more we do that, the easier it is for us to operate in a high volume, high velocity workload situation without burning out.
Yes, thank you so much. And I agree with you because I've been working a lot like remotely and I can see that this is happening a lot.
Mm.
So, yeah. Well, thank you so much once more, Richard and Ted, for your wonderful demo as well. I really enjoyed our discussion, Richard, about all of the topics. And I also would like to thank everyone who attended this live event. In the
Mm.
following days, we'll send you all the resources connected to the event via email. And if you tuned in later or you missed the beginning, don't worry, we'll send you the recording as well. For more HR events like this one, other videos connected to human resources, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay on top of all current trends. And also, don't hesitate to add me or our speakers on LinkedIn for any further questions or doubts that you may have on this topic. Thank you so much, guys, and have a lovely afternoon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Cheers, guys.